And welcome to the, I guess, final episode of the Four Horsemen of Fantasy Football podcast. Wow. This season has flown by. To the fact that I was like, is this really the last episode? And sure enough, it is. It is I, Karlos with a K Ortiz.
With a K. Not at the table, Karlos.
And alongside me is only Gil Benhamu.
Suck it, Gil.
I love that sound effect, dude. I can't even lie. Like, it sounds like slander, but just somebody going, in a movie, of course, just going, suck it, Gil.
And it's amazing because I don't know any other Gils, and the only time I heard a Gil reference was in that movie I Love You Man, which I absolutely love. Man, I love that movie. I'm a big Paul Rudd fan, and I like Jason Segel. I like his work, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So I thought it was a great fit. So Gil, it is you and I. We are the dynamic duo. There's no Robins here though, so it's Batman and Batman. And
who needs them?
Yeah, listen. Nick's currently getting his ass beat by the COVID booster. We wish him well, but he also should have been smarter and took the booster the day after. But hey, that's neither here nor there. And Jack has been confiscated as contraband by the Canadian authorities, so he's currently in America's hat, known as Canada. And we wish him a speedy release from Canadian borders. Gil, how are you?
Wow. It's been a long couple of weeks, and I could tell you right now with shame and glory that I placed 5th in all 4 leagues I'm in, including ours. Because the opening week of playoffs, thank you. The opening week of playoffs, I lost every game. When we last left off, Terry McLaurin absolutely, pardon my French, the bucket. Really. And then he played well the last 2 games, and then I had an amazing showing because, right? This is quite an achievement. It's so unbelievably unhinged, completely cursed, if you ask me, to have placed 5th in all 4 leagues I'm a part of. But I can leave on a win, and my head is held high, knowing I'll probably and hopefully do better next season. But enough about me. How about you, Karlos?
Yeah, I had a decent weekend.
Yeah?
I don't have time for losers. And in the immortal words of Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. I am the fantasy champion of our own little Iona League. And that includes Mark Malusis, who we have no problem name dropping. I haven't actually texted him to gloat yet, but I'll see him on Sunday. And Jack Hopkins, who had finished the record with the overall #1 seed and best record in the league. He got handled in the semifinals, quite easily, I might add. I didn't break a sweat whatsoever. We both knew it was over before it started. And
he lost a lot of his players to COVID, too.
He did. COVID reared its ugly head. Yeah.
He had Kelsey. He did almost bail out because Devontae Adams was on his team, and then he had, I guess Dalvin didn't perform, or at least he did. But Jack finished in 3rd.
Yep.
And, of course, our own Mr. Booster Man, Nicholas Romeo, finished 2nd. And he kicked my ass because my team didn't show up. I got ruined by Dak Prescott and Alvin Kamara doing nothing.
Yeah. The worst thing that could have happened to fantasy owners was having Kamara for the last 2 weeks, where you had Ian Book as your quarterback in the semifinals, only to go ahead and throw 3 picks, get sacked 5-6 times. Miami destroying New Orleans, and that's the reason why in my main league that I got crushed, because I had nobody there, and then just an absolute embarrassment. Especially compared to last year when Kamara single-handedly was winning fantasy teams their championships. This year, completely the opposite. He's giving people 3-4 points depending on your scoring. If you had Kamara, you lost. I don't care how the rest of your team did unless you happen to have, a Joe Burrow, which we'll get to a little bit later. It's been a strange season, Gil, to say the least. There was plenty of players that underperformed. A lot of first-rounders that I think I can easily say that they were busts. Same with second rounders too. But then you had some players that were just absolute steals that performed like first rounders that we believe will go in the first round next season as well. And I know we're going to talk a lot about that also. But I guess before we dive into everything, Gil, what was the biggest takeaway for the fantasy playoffs for you?
The Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals, man, they're here. They are here. I love watching this football team. And it's sad to say because I'm I'm not like a Ravens fan, but I like watching Lamar Jackson play because he's at his best, he's an electrifying player. But this team is showtime. Wow. They showed up against the Chiefs last week. Any Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow owners like Carlos right here with Joe Burrow, who he drafted late in our league.
12th round.
12th round. Happy for you, man. Look at that. You place your faith in a rookie. And a lot of rookies showed up this year. That's an underlying theme. A lot of rookies, especially at the wideout position, showed up. And Jamar Chase came and did some work. He busted the Chiefs wide open. And the crazy part about it was he didn't do anything crazy the week before because that was T. Higgins' job.
Mm-hmm.
But, wow. Unbelievable. I can't say enough how much they probably won people leagues over this weekend. And the funny part about it was somebody in my league who had Jamar Chase was sitting on the bench and he lost third place. But,
yeah,
I can't stress enough that Bengals team is going to be fun to watch for years to come, especially if they're healthy for the next season specifically. I think they're going to be a great team with high draft value at all positions.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a takeaway for me in the playoffs is do not be afraid to take good / potentially great players on bad teams. Because if you had Amon-Ra St. Brown the last 3 weeks of the fantasy season, he may have won you weeks. Behind Jamar Chase's 50-point effort was St. Brown. And depending on your scoring league, he got you anywhere between 25 to 35 points. St. Brown was electric against the Seattle Seahawks, who have just completely given up. That team is imploded. I think they are going to have big changes in the offseason in terms of real life, not fantasy. Mm-hmm. If they want to keep Carroll, I think Pete Carroll's deserved the opportunity to kind of see it through if he wants to stay. If he decides that's enough, you know what? That's his prerogative. I think Russell Wilson is done there. I don't think that he wants to kind of wait for the Seahawks to figure it out. He doesn't have many years left. Right. I just see Westbrook going to like Denver or Darius, maybe even Cleveland. I don't know if I can't see big. New Orleans. That's not a bad idea at all. So that's probably the team more likely than Cleveland. But I see Denver number one because they have a lot of really good skill position players that are locked up. I think they're just a quarterback away. In order to be in real contention. New Orleans would be a good spot too. The only thing with New Orleans is I think Sean Payton stays, but what if he doesn't? That would be the only thing.
Reason for him to leave, considering he's had opportunities where he's outcoached other teams, namely the Buccaneers, where they've I would say he's outcoached that team that game, regardless if they didn't score a touchdown. He outcoached Bruce Arians, and he outcoached the Buccaneers defense.
Which is a perfect segue for interesting news in the finals as well. I know, Gil, you wanted to touch up on it, so I'll let you go ahead and take the lead on it.
What on earth? This man, Antonio Brown. Allow me to get started with this Saturday.
I need you to play that again because it's too good. What a clown. What a clown.
I can't stress enough. I feel so bad for people that were in the finals of their leagues and had to play him.
I had him.
I'm thankful that my season already ended and he was in my lineup. Because I would never have ever put away the shame that would have happened had I had Antonio Brown and I was playing for a championship. Because, man, that would have been embarrassing. That would have been absolutely like, oh, my God. Like, I would have been absolutely flummoxed. Like, look that word up. I would have been flabbergasted. Can you imagine? Unbelievable. But Antonio Brown left the game against the Jets early. I don't remember what quarter it was.
Third quarter.
It was third quarter, right? Oh my God! And he not only did he leave, he left with like 5.5 points. He probably would have. And the crazy part about this all was he had all these incentives to play for with an extra game of football left, and it's like a weird bad look on both sides because it's very tough for as a competitor. You don't want to be benched without being able to at least see it out, or like just be able to kind of see what you can do without, constantly just being monitored and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, this is Antonio Brown, who's had a history of ankle issues over the season. So I could see why Arians would err on the side of caution heading into that game. Because, you're down against the Jets. But Tom Brady just won with his only receiver in Mike Evans. He pretty much did the work with him and Gronk and nobody else.
Was there any point in that game, and I know you're a Bills fan and I'm a Giants fan, so we don't. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm over here thinking of Sam Bercusi, who is a Bills fan. I know you're a Chargers fan. I'm a Giants fan. So we have no love for the Jets. But I don't even feel bad for them. It's just, was there any point in that game, even when the Bucs were down, did you really think realistically that the Jets were going to win that game?
There was a sliver of hope. There was a sliver. And when I mean sliver,
I call shenanigans. I call shenanigans. I literally, as the game went into halftime, I'm like, there's no way the Bucs are going to lose this game. There's zero shot. Sure enough, Tom Brady takes him 96 yards down the field with less than a minute and wins the game.
Brady has time on the clock. I was like, whatever.
And it's the Jets. It's the Jets. I just had no faith that they were going to pull it off. Now, as far as losses go, I think that's one of the better losses that the Jets can have, if there is such a thing, because they played well. They had the Bucs beat for 3.5 quarters. You played well. The problem is just, TB12 has beat the Jets for years, and there was no reason for it to change that narrative now. Now, the only thing I will say about the whole Antonio Brown situation is, our listeners may or may not know, I work at WFAN and CBS Sports, so I've had ample opportunity to listen to different reports come in and out of Tampa Bay in regards to what happened in that situation. Here's the story that seems to be the most approved of in terms of, general thought of what happened. Bruce Arians told Antonio Brown to get into the game, to get ready to check in. He was about to play. He had been sitting it out. Brown allegedly and reportedly refused, said, I can't go. Arians is like, I need you to get in. Brown refused again. So Arians is like, all right, well, if you're not going to check into the game, you can't be here. You need to go. And I don't know if there was any more back and forth. I haven't seen too much detail in terms of the reports there. But Antonio Brown just said, you know what? All right, I'm done. Cool. Mike Evans tried to talk to him a little bit on the sideline, but at that point, Brown's already checked out, goes ahead and pulls a slap shot, disrobes in front of everybody, starts doing some weird jumping jacks in the end zone, and the rest is, shall we say, history. AB quits on the Bucs. I don't have much of a take on it because I know that there's a lot of gray area, but there's two things that I would say. You can have, issues mentally if you're going through something, if you need help, and it's apparent. I certainly believe that you should sympathize for that person. And the help should be provided. But you can also be a jerk. And I think Brown is both. I think there's something wrong. I don't know what it is, clearly. I'm not a medical professional. And it would seem that most people around him don't know either. They just know something is off. Whether it was because of the hit that was placed on him by Vontaze Burfict, because since that game against the Bengals, he has not looked the same. I don't know if that did it. I don't know if it's pre-mortem CTE. I don't know what it is. But there's something that's not right with Brown, and if he needs the help, I hope he gets the help that he needs. But he's also just a jerk. Both things don't have to go hand. They are mutually exclusive. You don't have to be a good person to have mental health issues, and you don't have to be a jerk to be completely devoid of mental health issues. So get help if you need it. But also, come on, man. Dude, you're in your 30s, man. I'm 36. I can't be out there acting like a clown. And when you quit on your team, I think a lot of execs and coaches and teammates, they can look over the fact that you might be a bad guy, but they cannot accept the fact that you will quit on your team. I truly believe, and people are saying never say never, Antonio Brown, to me, will never step foot onto an NFL field again.
I agree. I think he's done. If you walk out as emphatically as he did, you probably are done in the league. There is no reason any exec should give him a shot. I think Bruce Arians has exhausted all resources in trying to defend him prior to this incident regarding sexual assault or the fake vaccination card or just, being hurt or whatever the case is. I think the NFL's execs, coaches, and so on have exhausted all resources in trying to defend him. That includes Roger Goodell. But after that, I think that's the shot. Like, even Tom Brady can't even do anything about it.
Yeah.
And considering the pull he's had on the Bucs roster up until this point, if he can't do it, you're done.
Yeah, and let's not understate it. It's on the field itself. It's a big loss because they've already lost Chris Godwin for the year. I don't think the Bucs are not the powerhouse that people think anymore. Like, not even to think. I think it's understated how much of an impact offensively that Antonio Brown brought to the team. Tom Brady is still a prolific quarterback. He's still playing at a potentially MVP level, although I think Aaron Rodgers will win the award again. That would be my vote if I had one. But unless Fournette can come back healthy and ready to rock for the playoff run, the Bucs, there's a lot of chink in that armor, man. I think the NFC is going to be wide open. So those are our thoughts on Antonio Brown and the playoff run here that we had in the last couple of weeks. If you won your leagues, congratulations. If you're still playing for a championship this Sunday, you're absolutely wrong. There's no reason you should have finals in the final week of the regular season with bye
anybody
weeks
with
and
anybody
everything
on
like
the Packers and you're playing in a championship weekend this.
Yeah, listen, you deserve to have your league relegated. Whatever the minor league fantasy is, that's where you belong, because you shouldn't be playing championships now. So let's shift gears. Let's go to our main topic, which will now kind of feel like a secondary topic. We had to adjust on the fly because of Nick feeling under the weather and Jack eating maple syrup and bacon. Originally, we were going to kind of do a mock draft or a winners and whiffers. We're still going to go with winners and whiffers, but let me explain what this segment's going to be. We're going to go through our fantasy teams, and we're going to confine it solely to the league that we played against each other. So we're not stepping over each other. We're not having the same players, this, that, and third. We'll look at where we made our genius picks, where we think they may end up next season if we're redrafting, and where we made the biggest blunders, because fantasy is all about patting yourself on the back and also lamenting your mistakes. So let me start off, Gil. I'll toss out one that I think was just an absolute genius pick because it's low-hanging fruit, and then we'll kind of go back and forth from there. In the fourth round, in the 37th overall slot, I pick up wide receiver from the Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, who I didn't think was going to have the season that he was going to have, because I actually had Bobby Trees rated higher for
we were like
in a pre-draft process. I had Bobby Trees like 1A and I had like Cooper 1B because I thought they would both be the same receiver, but we knew almost immediately how wrong I was going to be. Here's Cooper Kupp's, and just we're going with PPR standards, PPR scoring according to Yahoo League, and this is the league that we played in. The number one overall player in fantasy this season, Cooper Kupp, with 412 fantasy points. That is on 138 receptions, which totaled 1,829 yards, 15 touchdowns, and a single 2-point conversion. Because you have to fit in the 2-point conversion there. It's 2 points. What an absolutely genius move to pick up first-round talent in the fourth round. And I'm going to just, blow my prediction here, so to speak. Cooper Kupp is going to be a top 5 pick next year. There's no doubt about it. Now, do I think he can replicate this production? No. But if I'm sitting at that 5 spot and the running backs are off the board that I like and Cooper Kupp is sitting there, I think I'll pull the trigger and have to take him, man. You got to roll the dice. I think the report that he and Stafford show, it's obviously real. It obviously bodes well for fantasy managers. That's where I'm going, Gil. Cooper to me, Cooper Kupp, because I'm over here talking like he's my best friend. Kupp, it was just the biggest steal of any draft that you could have had, barring an undrafted guy or a waiver guy just perform like a first rounder. So Cooper Kupp's my guy, and I think he goes top 5 next year.
Cooper without a K made a pick by Karlos with a K. Well done.
Kupp starts with a K. That works.
Close enough. Yeah, I will give you quite a nugget right here, because Jack's not on the podcast today.
Lieutenant
Kupp,
Data,
like you said, had over 400 fantasy points to accumulate on the season. He's had more fantasy points than all Browns wide receivers combined, all Giants wide receivers combined.
Oh God, Kenny Golladay, no touchdowns.
Broncos wide receivers combined, and all Panthers wide receivers combined.
Yeah.
In separate, Can you believe that?
No, I can't. Again, I thought Bobby Trees was going to be the preferred receiver to own, man. It just tells you how funny and cruel fantasy could be, because I had no business winning this league. We went through the rest of my draft. My draft is terrible, and I won I win a championship because of 2 players and only one of. Well, no, I did draft the other guy, but I wasn't banking on the other guy. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Come on. I never expected, and nobody expects an unprecedented year. I'm afraid Cooper Kupp's gonna. I don't know if I want to say he's top 5, because I'm afraid he'll just do some pedestrian numbers next year. I'm afraid that'll happen. And God knows who their wide receiver core is going to be, if they keep Odell, if Bobby Trees comes back sooner, or whatever the case may be. It'll be difficult to tell. This offseason is going to be a lot of a blurry for wide receivers, especially the high-end ones, namely Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams. But I'm gonna go on another obvious one here. With the 11th round pick.
I know where you're leaning at. Yep.
I took Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, you're a genius there.
Wow. First off, I benched him week 1 because obviously nobody expected him to do that well. And
for sure.
My flex, because my wide receivers 1 and 2 were Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. So I had to put him in wide receiver 1 or 2 territory week after week. This man finishes right now, 17 weeks in, standard PPR, 310 fantasy points. That's ranked 13th overall on Yahoo.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I can't stress enough. His lowest scoring games, I think, were roughly around 12 or 11 points. I think it was against the Cardinals. But when he's there and he's healthy, he's a baller. He's done everything. And then he shifted. Not only did he start off as a pure wide receiver 1 talent, he shifted into what Cordero Patterson does.
Yeah.
And he did it almost better. Wow. That's the craziest thing to me, was Deebo did something that I honestly didn't expect. He probably won't be a first round pick next year, just given the amount of talent that's already there. But I could see him going between the 2nd and the 3rd round. Especially if the quarterback situation seems to be resolved by next season, whether they keep Jimmy Garoppolo or they immediately shift to Trey Lance, or they get somebody else. They could trade for Russell Wilson. Who knows? They won't, but
No, and there's no way to 49ers. I mean, there's no way the Seahawks would trade to an in-division rival than 49ers. No shot.
Exactly, yeah. So, that said, he'll probably go where we want him to be, somewhere where he'll hit wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 territory. If you draft Cooper Kupp first, then he'll be your wide receiver 2. But in other instances where you go the safe route and take a running back, him being your wide receiver 1 is definitely not a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let me just go ahead and name off the top 10. I'm going to try to avoid quarterbacks for this. Top 10 fantasy producing skill players, and we'll see if they're more or less going to retain that value. So we already spoke about Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is the number 1 overall guy now. Yay or nay? I'm saying nay. There's no way that he can keep this up. I think he's bound for regression. Would you agree with that?
I would say a regression, but to the slightest of terms because I just don't think he'll do. He won't put up the numbers he put up. It was kind of like the same thing with Stephon Diggs the season prior, where he'll get his, but now defenses know, so they can probably prepare.
Yeah, I don't know. I think defenses have figured it out in the second half of the season. They still can't stop them. But but I'm with you there. I think he tapers off, but I still think he's a fine receiver. Next, in terms of skill players, and I'm gonna go rapid fire real quick. And you give me a number, you give me yay or nay if you think they can stay there. We'll kind of keep this moving along so we can get to the next part of our show here. But Jonathan Taylor, overall number 1 running back, yay or nay, and him being, let's say, I do think that he will be a top 3 guy. What say you?
Absolutely, I think he's the RB2.
I'd agree with that.
It's tough to put him ahead of Derrick Henry, especially if he's healthy.
That's my thing too.
Yeah, like especially if Derrick Henry's completely healthy by next season, which probably looks like that considering he was just cleared from the IR today. He's the RB2. I don't know any other running back where I'd put ahead of those two at the moment. They're kind of clear cut 1 and 2 at the moment. With Jonathan Taylor, I gotta see what the offseason will play out in terms of injuries. Because remember, heading into the season, they had lost Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz to injury. They came back week 1. It was still a bit concerning, especially for pre-draft. And it's going to be tricky, but I definitely think he'll be high up there. Given his value and his volume, it's hard to disagree. Yeah,
I have him right now, barring any off-season moves. I have him as number 2 as well. I actually would take Derrick Henry with the first overall pick, and then I go Jonathan Taylor. Then we got Devontae Adams, who's the second receiver on the board, 332 fantasy points. I think we can skip him because he was going off first round this year in most leagues.
I want to hold off on that because here's the thing: if he doesn't get franchise tagged, or if he does and refuses to play, who knows what's going to happen? His whole
That's a fair point.
Completely murky.
It's a fair point, but the talent is there. I just think to me, I see a lot of DeAndre Hopkins, where DeAndre Hopkins, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I think he's going to get his. Devontae Adams, although we've only seen him with Rodgers, so I hear you. But I think Devontae Adams I think he can find success with another quarterback as well. Also, I kind of dismiss the notion that Rodgers may go somewhere. I'm kind of pushing back a little bit now as the season progresses. What are the options for Rodgers? Denver? Like, no, you're not going to do that. The easiest path to victory for Rodgers to get another Super Bowl ring is right where he is. Listen, Minnesota's no good. Let me take that back. Minnesota's okay, but they're not good enough to challenge for the division. They're having a losing season now. They might fire their coach. Who knows? The Chicago Bears are a train wreck. The Detroit Lions are the Detroit Lions. So you have a guaranteed path to the championship, barring injury. Mm-hmm. And the NFC overall as a conference is not strong. We thought it would be top heavy because of Tom Brady and the Bucs, but we just saw what happened with the Bucs. The Bucs almost lost to the Jets. They lost Antonio Brown. They lost Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, maybe he gets franchise tagged. I don't know if they're going to pay that much for a receiver. Maybe he goes somewhere else. So the Bucs could look different next season too. We have no idea what New Orleans is going to be with their quarterback. We don't know what Seattle's going to be if Russell Wilson leaves or stays. Hell, we don't even know what the 49ers are going to be. Because I haven't seen enough about Trey Lance. He looked good last week. Trey Lance looked decent.
Texans, so it's just like, how bad can you look?
Right. Yeah. So, Trey Lance looked good, but, is he ready to be, a top tier quarterback? Like, I don't know. So I hold off on there too. I just think the NFC is really wide open. So why would Rodgers want to leave that? So that's why for me, I'm skipping Devontae Adams. Unless they move, I think Adams and Rodgers stay right where they are. And to me, that just retains Adams' value. I don't think there's any regression there. Hell, if anything, maybe he can have a better year next year. Moving on, Austin Eckler. I'll let you lead this one because you were in Dave Gettleman-like full bloom love with Austin Eckler, and rightfully so. So he had 314 yards. You tell me if you think he's going to be better or worse. Where do you think he's going next year?
He outplayed his ADP this season. Let's get that out the way. He was taken in the second round in just about every league I was in. I don't see a reason why he doesn't go first. He might leapfrog a couple people that were taken this year in the first round. I don't know where it's going to be murky in terms of just other running backs that are there. I don't think Nick Chubb's a first rounder again, which probably leaves room for Eckler to get in there. And he's he's done a fantastic job as your RB1. Like in my main league, I had Devontae Adams as my top pick. My second round pick was Austin Eckler, and I took him at pick, I think, 13. So to say that I drafted him, I guess, this low behind players like Antonio Gibson, Saquon Barkley, et cetera, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I can on another note, he's an absolute like glorified like junkie about fantasy football. Like I don't know if you know, but he has a show on Yahoo Sports called Eckler's Edge with Lisa Loza, and they obviously discuss a lot of things. He did mention on there he was on the COVID list before the game against the Texans, where Justin Jackson absolutely played fantastic. So he gave us a heads up. It gave me a heads up. However, I just think it's important to know that he will probably slide into the first round, just given the fall off of other first rounders.
That's the key right there. Listen, I think Eckler's a fine player. I would if I'm still in the back end of the first round, I probably would take him there. Before, you're not going to risk taking him on the turn in the second round. So I like Eckler where he is. I think I agree with you that he outperformed his ADP, but a lot of running backs had to get hurt. A lot of them had to really underperform in order for him to leapfrog those guys too. So
I will say this also: if you're in that blessed 10-11 spot or 12-13 spot, and he's on the board, and so is like a tight end like Travis Kelce, namely Travis Kelce. No other tight end would I do this with. You got to double that. You go Eckler Kelce, I think. Or Kelce Eckler, whichever floats your boat, whichever one gives you more pride in saying I took Kelce in the first round. I think you do that.
If it's me next year and I'm in that position, I'm not touching Kelce. Eckler's the way to go. And I'll rapid fire these: Deebo Samuel, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. So we got a lot of receivers that finish in the top 10 skill position players. Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, and this one will surprise you. Rounding out the top 10 of skill players. You mentioned the tight end. It's not the tight end you think. Mark Andrews from the Baltimore Ravens.
That's not surprising at all.
Finished 284 points in Yahoo PPR leagues. Travis Kelce finished 249. So Mark Andrews was the TE1 overall over Kelce. And if you've listened to the podcast all season, you heard me say fantasy tight end is a wasteland. Mm-hmm. Not if you have Andrews, not if you have Kelce. But if you took anybody else, like I did, taking Darren Waller in the third round, which was a mistake. I'll never touch Darren Waller again, at least not that high. So if you're not taking Andrews, especially in the first round, second turnaround, don't do it. Don't touch a tight end. Get the running back. Get the receiver. So with that said, let's go ahead and we'll take a quick break. You heard enough from us. I think we want to go ahead and just reset a little bit. And when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the NFL's most innovative minds, not only for coaching, not only for broadcasting. And I'm doing a poor job teasing this because you know what this is about. Stand by. We'll tell you what our thoughts on the passing of an NFL legend. And that was a quick break because, again, it's only Gil Benhamu. It's only Karlos with a K Ortiz. We're flying, duo today. Dynamic duo because Nick is over here fighting COVID and Jack is over here fighting mooses in Canada. What is the moose plural? Is it mooses?
Do you remember the Jeff Dunham skit where he says moosin'?
Like moose eye,
yeah,
like plural that. Like I don't know what the hell.
It's just moose.
It's just moose, right? All right, so
moose.
Yeah, so it's not like geese. It's not like meese, right? He's not fighting meese.
No, not at all.
So Jack is out there fighting multiple moose in Canada. So yeah, you got Gil, you got me, and we teased this before we came into our very short break. Unfortunately, we had some sad news in the NFL world, and then actually, you know what? I dare say I probably wouldn't limit it to the NFL world too. December 28th, 3 days after Christmas of 2021, the world was saddened to hear that John Madden, a former NFL coach and broadcaster, passed away. And, I heard so many people wax poetically about stories with John Madden, whether it was, things that he did. He was a decent player. He was a solid linebacker, but it's really the work he did as a coach with the Raiders. I'm not old enough to remember that Super Bowl run that he had, or any of the fact that he essentially never had a losing record as a coach. I remember a little bit about his broadcast career. So I will admit that I got into football a little bit later in my life. I didn't get into football until I was 16. I moved to New York. Coincidentally, I became a Giants fan. And, let's go Giants, even though right now let's go to the dumpster. And I just remember watching John Madden and Pat Summerall call like really big games. Like you knew when Madden and Summerall were on the call, you knew you were about to watch a real high pressure cooker, high stakes game in the NFL. But I'm just, again, I can't say that he necessarily affected me as a broadcaster that much because I didn't really get into this media career until recently as well. Where I think the biggest influence for me for John Madden is for maybe a lot of guys in my generation, and especially younger to me, a lot of people know John Madden from the video games. Mm-hmm. John Madden did not. I had a chance to see the documentary a little bit. He had a lot of influence in how that game was. It wasn't just, you slapped your name on it for an endorsement. No, he really talked to developers about what makes a great football game. Forget about a video game, just a football game. Right. And, there are generations of kids nowadays that play Madden and they're like, hey, that guy has the same name as, of the video game because they don't even know he was a coach. But I remember, I just know countless hours that I've had of playing Madden with my friends, me getting smoked or me winning and just talking a whole mess of crap. John Madden video games were always a treat for me, but the number one single memory I have of John Madden, and it's so silly. I love the movie Little Giants. Little Giants to me is just one of those fun family films that you get behind where you root on an underdog. You know what's going to happen at the end of the movie, but you still enjoy the journey anyway. For those of you who have not watched Little Giants, it is a Rick Moranis vehicle, and he is a coach of a little pee-wee football team, bunch of ragtag kids that band together, and they take on the more developed, more, I guess you want to say, on the path to professional stardom when it comes to football. And that team is coached by Ed O'Neill, which I will always refer to as Al Bundy. And they are the Dallas Cowboys in that movie. And then the Little Giants are the Giants. The little engine that could, the little rascals of football. I'm not running out of puns here. But anyway, one scene in the movie is that John Madden's tour bus. And if you knew John Madden, you knew what the tour bus was. It crashes down, or breaks down rather, in this small fictional town I believe is Urban, Ohio, if I can remember the movie correctly. And off the bus comes all these all Pro Bowl players and John Madden. And John Madden, while he's waiting for his bus to get fixed, he's like, let me just show you guys these plays. Let me just talk football with you and get you guys up to speed and give you as much as you need that you're going to go ahead and, beat the Pee-wee Dallas Cowboys at the end of the game. What the big takeaway for me in that movie is John Madden wasn't acting. That was just John Madden. If you listen to him,
part, yeah.
He didn't pretend to be somebody that he wasn't. He didn't talk down to you, which I think there's a lot of broadcasters, even the talented color commentators now. They talk about football like on another level. They throw the terminology that they know. John Madden didn't talk to you like you were a football coach or a football savant. He talked to you like you were a buddy, like you're just having a beer with him, and explains to you, the breakdowns in defenses or the subtle cues that a wide receiver would make on its route, or how a quarterback will look off a defender. And he talked to you in layman's terms that you can understand. And he was just a very personable guy. And that's what I remember from the movie, and that's what I remember from him in his career and his life. He really an incredible guy. Obviously, I never had the privilege to meet him. I don't think I was ever in a position to do so either. But he had a profound impact in a lot of things that I did, and especially a movie that I really loved as a kid, and even now as an adult. So that's my piece on John Madden. I wanted to share with you. So I appreciate you all listening. Gil, I'll let you kind of go for here.
That was great. That was actually really awesome, Carlos. I don't have anything profoundly significant of John Madden that brought me into the game. More the fact that was not even just the video game as a whole, but I think his overall elegance and grace at what he did. He never was clamoring to be so and so. This man was authentic from the jump.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I will take away from him more than anything was he never tried to be anybody else. He never even tried. He was just John Madden. I think that's the most important thing to take away is that he could light up a room. He could draw so much attention to detail, but at the same time, he could attract the most basic of viewer or the most basic of consumer to what is the grace that is in some aspects football. Whether, like you said, the attention to detail on these little cadences that quarterbacks or wide receivers do in a play. What made John Madden so great was that he knew everything. This man was a complete savant, and you couldn't even tell because he said it in such a way that anybody could understand. That's what made me so happy about learning about John Madden, was he was so real. He was just so personable. He was so relatable in a way. And you would never expect it for somebody who's played in the NFL and coached in the NFL. What made him awesome to me was that he did all of that. And at the same time, he was so down to earth. When he had the cruiser, right? The Madden Cruiser is what it was called?
Yeah.
And because he hated flying. And prior to, he did fly when he was a coach and a player. But when he went into broadcasting, he couldn't fly. He just hated it. He had a claustrophobic issue, which I won't get into. But that was almost in a sense, how Guy Fieri does his diners, drive-ins, and dives. He's driving around the country.
Yeah.
Never will I see a personality do what he did. Go around the country, road trip it, anywhere, and be so in tune with the community. In any city you see. Obviously, the only place he couldn't travel to was Hawaii for the Pro Bowl. However, everywhere else, I'm talking St. Louis, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, New York, New Jersey, LA, San Diego, the list goes on and on and on, Texas, Florida, you get the idea. From city to city, his impact on the game will never be unrecognized. His impact on the game will never be forgotten because we will never forget the name John Madden. That's what stuck out to me the most. His persona, his aura, and at the same time, just a regular dude. And I can't get enough of him. I really can't. No matter how often, we'll never forget John Madden. And I will personally make sure that I will never forget John Madden.
Well said. So again, just to kind of to wrap this into a bow, John Madden, aged 35 when he passed, December 28th, former NFL head coach. He actually holds the highest winning percentage among NFL coaches who've coached at least 100 games. Never had a losing season. Won the first Super Bowl in Raiders history when they merged with the AFL and the AFL, NFL, and all that good stuff. But after that, color commentator. He worked for every major network, which I almost forgot: CBS Sports, Fox Sports, ABC Sports, NBC Sports. So from the Four Horsemen, we wish John Madden's family and loved ones we send them our condolences and rest in peace to the legend John Earl Madden. So, Gil, with all that said, we have no more football business. I almost don't know what to do with ourselves. I feel like we should be talking about something else. Gil, what could that possibly be?
First off, I want to get started by saying this. I couldn't be more thankful for the 17, 18 weeks that we had, even prior to the season. Recording with Karlos, Jac, and Nick each week, it brought me so much joy, whether we're in the studio or we're sitting in our own rooms just screaming at our microphones. This was so much fun. But that said, this is not done with. We are not done with the NFL season.
Oh, no.
We're shifting to fantasy basketball for the remainder of the NBA season, whether that will go from January up until April, because what else are we going to talk about? Fantasy baseball? Okay, maybe. But we're not going to
Yeah, why not?
Fantasy basketball, Jack, Nick, Carlos, and myself specifically have a passion for sports. Obviously, this goes beyond football. And although fantasy football is a cult on its own, it doesn't stop there for us. The marathon continues, as the great Nipsey Hussle once just said. So, starting, I believe, either next week or the week following, we'll be covering fantasy basketball, whether it be cat leagues, points leagues like we do in this, stats, streamers, so on and so forth, and everything in between. I'm excited to get this going as well with 3 established great personalities alongside me. And, again, it doesn't stop there. So, that said, we had a great time recording, talking about football, whining that Robert Woods couldn't do anything and Cooper Kupp was just stealing all the shine and everything else. So with that said, we got plenty to talk about, and this is definitely not finished. The offseason is still far away. But with that said, please give us a follow on our Instagram, the number 4 Horsemen of Fantasy, because we'll give you all the updates regarding that on there.
Yep.
Thank you again.
Yeah, well said. Again, it's not goodbye. This is we'll see you in a bit. For Gil Benhamu and Nick, Romeo, and Jack Hopkins, who are not here, we send our love and our gratitude that you guys have stuck with us during this football season. Again, follow us on our YouTube and Instagram page, Four Horsemen of Fantasy, and we will see you on the basketball court.